There are battles we can see and battles we pretend don't exist. Some wounds bleed loudly, but others bleed in silence. And it's the silent ones that often do the most damage. Because the truth is this: what destroys your confidence and strength rarely shows up as an explosion. It shows up as a whisper, a small compromise, a tiny habit, a quiet decision that seems harmless until it becomes a pattern. And that pattern becomes a prison. You may not feel weak, you may not look broken, but deep inside, something is draining the fire out of you slowly, quietly, consistently. And if you don't stop long enough to identify it, you'll wake up one day wondering how your passion faded, how your confidence died, and how your strength slipped through your fingers. But here's the hope: anything that was learned can be unlearned. Anything that was formed can be broken. You are not stuck with the habits that have been sabotaging you. Today, you get to confront them. You get to expose what has been hiding in the dark corners of your routine. And once something is exposed, it loses its hold. So take a breath, open your heart, and get ready. Because the habits that have been silently killing your confidence and strength, today they meet their end. The most destructive habits are often quiet, subtle, and disguised as normal. And the reason they're so dangerous is because they don't announce themselves. They don't walk into your life with alarms, warning signs, or flashing lights. They slip in quietly, almost politely, as if they belong there. They camouflage themselves as everyday routines, things everyone does, small compromises that don't look like compromises at all. They don't feel threatening, they don't feel heavy, and they don't feel wrong. In fact, many times they feel comfortable, familiar, safe, and that's exactly how they grow. What destroys a person rarely arrives as a dramatic event. More often it shows up as a little shift in thinking that you brush off, a decision you shrug at, a moment where you say, "It's not a big deal." You don't see the danger because the danger doesn't come all at once. It comes slowly, quietly, one small choice at a time. And by the time you notice its weight, it has already settled deep inside your behavior. One of the greatest tricks of these silent habits is how normal they seem. You might even convince yourself they're just part of your personality. You might say, "Everybody does this," or "It's not hurting anyone," or "This is just how I cope." But the truth is, the habits you excuse today become the chains you struggle with tomorrow. And the chains don't start as chains. They start as threads. Thin, harmless threads that wrap around your life quietly until you wake up and realize how tightly they've been pulling. The habits that weaken you don't show up during your victories. They grow during your quiet moments, during the evenings when you're tired and decide to take the easy way, during the mornings when discipline whispers but comfort speaks louder, during the moments when you choose distraction over growth, silence over honesty, avoidance over action. They show up in the places where no one else is watching. They show up in the conversations you have with yourself that no one else hears. They show up in the decisions you repeat until they become automatic. And the subtlety of these habits is what gives them power. Because you can't fight something you refuse to acknowledge. You can't change something you don't see as a problem. You can't break something you've convinced yourself is normal. And many people spend years weakening themselves, not because they want to, but because they don't realize they're doing it. They live unaware of the slow drip that is draining their confidence and strength a little more every day. These habits don't need to be violent to be destructive. They don't need to be dramatic to be deadly. All they need is your permission. All they need is your repetition. All they need is your belief that it's nothing. And once they gain that access, they begin shaping your thoughts, influencing your emotions, and controlling your behavior. You don't notice the shift right away. You don't feel the impact on day one. But day by day, week by week, they begin to carve a new version of you. A quieter version, a smaller version, a weaker version. What makes these habits even harder to detect is that they rarely cause immediate consequences. If something hurt you right away, you'd stop it. If something broke you instantly, you'd run from it. But silent habits work like erosion. You don't see the cliff crumbling until you're standing at the edge, and by then, you've already lost ground. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the habits that hurt you are the same ones that temporarily soothe you. They give relief while taking strength. They numb your feelings while weakening your character. They help you escape while costing you clarity. And because they bring comfort, you assume they're harmless. But comfort isn't the same as nourishment. Something can feel good and still drain you. Something can calm you and still cripple you. Something can soften the moment and still harden your future. The destructive habits that keep you weak don't demand your attention. They survive on your neglect. They don't try to overpower you. They wait for you to lower your guard. They don't make bold moves. They thrive in your smallest excuses. And as long as you treat them as normal, they will continue to shape your life in ways you never intended. Real strength isn't just physical. It's emotional, mental, and spiritual. And today, more than ever, strength is measured by things no one can see. It's measured in the quiet moments where you hold yourself together when everything inside you wants to fall apart. It's measured in the choices you make when no one is watching, in the thoughts you fight that no one else hears, and in the hope you hold on to when the night feels too long. Real strength has very little to do with muscles or appearances. It comes from the kind of character that can't be faked and can't be borrowed. It comes from the battles you win in silence, the burdens you lift in private, and the storms you walk through with nothing but faith holding you upright. There are people who look strong on the outside, confident smile, controlled posture, stable life, and yet inside they are fighting battles no one knows about. And there are others who may not look powerful at all, but their resilience is unshakable. They don't crumble when pressure rises. They don't lose themselves when life gets dark. They stand firm, not because life is easy, but because they've built strength in places no one sees. That's the strength that lasts. The strength that doesn't depend on circumstances, the strength that grows even in the dark. So much of what destroys a person happens long before anything shows on their face. You can be physically healthy yet emotionally starving. You can be financially stable yet mentally exhausted. You can be socially surrounded yet spiritually empty. And you can be applauded by people but still feel disappointed in yourself. That's why inner strength matters so much more than outward achievement. The world celebrates what it can see, but your life is shaped by what it cannot see. Your thoughts, your motives, your values, your integrity, your inner stability. These are the things that determine how you respond to pressure, disappointment, uncertainty, and pain. These are the things that either lift you or break you. And the silent habits we tolerate begin to chip away at that inner strength. They don't strike your body first. They strike your identity. They weaken your clarity, cloud your confidence, and slow your purpose. They make you second guess yourself. They make you shrink when you're meant to stand tall. They make you depend on temporary escapes instead of building long-term resilience. And the saddest part is that most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they're just tired or unmotivated or overstressed, but deep down, they're being drained by patterns they've allowed to grow in the shadows. Real strength is built the same way it is lost quietly. It's built in the moments you choose discipline over ease. It's built in the moments you speak truth instead of hiding behind excuses. It's built in the moments you show up when comfort tells you to stay still. It's built when you forgive someone who didn't apologize. It's built when you refuse to let bitterness take root. It's built when you push past fear, even if your voice shakes. Every one of those decisions adds a layer to your inner foundation. And just like that, weakness forms the same way, slowly, silently, through small compromises that seem harmless at first, through the thoughts you replay instead of challenge, through the little lies you tell yourself like, this doesn't matter, or I'll fix it later, or it's just who I am. Over time, these beliefs shape your identity. And when your identity weakens, your strength weakens. Because real strength comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you refuse to tolerate in your life anymore. There's something powerful about a person who has built emotional resilience. They don't collapse under pressure. They bend and rise again. There's something powerful about someone who has built mental strength. They don't believe every negative thought, they challenge it. They don't let fear have the final word, they confront it. And there's something unmistakably powerful about someone who has grown spiritually strong. They carry peace in chaos. They carry purpose in confusion. They carry hope when everything around them feels hopeless. That is strength, the kind that lasts, the kind that can't be taken away, the kind that grows even when life becomes heavy. And it's the kind of strength silent habits try to destroy, little by little, without ever making a sound. Confidence doesn't disappear in a single moment. It doesn't collapse overnight. It fades slowly, quietly, through the little compromises we tell ourselves don't matter. It's rarely one big failure that breaks a person. It's the series of small choices that chip away at who they believe they are. Every time you silence your voice when you should speak, every time you hide your potential because you're afraid to be seen, every time you talk yourself out of something you know you're capable of, a small part of your confidence is surrendered. Not thrown away, surrendered, given up, handed over to fear piece by piece. Most people don't realize that confidence is not something you either have or don't have. It's something you build or destroy with your decisions. And the destruction usually happens so quietly that by the time you feel weak, the weakening has already been happening for months, sometimes years. You can look back at your life and see moments where you stopped believing in yourself, but those moments didn't begin there. They were the result of a long pattern you ignored. Confidence dies in silence. It dies when you shrink in rooms where you should stand tall. It dies when you let other people's opinions weigh more than your own potential. It dies when you choose comfort instead of growth. It dies when you let fear speak louder than your calling. It dies when you stop keeping promises to yourself. And these moments might seem small at the time, but the truth is this: the small choices become your story. The small choices shape who you become. And if those choices lean toward fear, insecurity, avoidance, or doubt, then your confidence slowly starts to disappear, even if everything on the outside still looks fine. You can tell when confidence is dying, not because someone looks broken, but because they start living smaller. They stop dreaming big, they stop taking risks, they apologize for existing, they hesitate in their purpose, they stay quiet when they know they have something to offer. And the saddest part is that many people think this is just growing up, or being realistic, or accepting life, but it isn't. It's a slow decay created by the habits they never question. Sometimes the most damaging habits are the ones happening inside your own head. The constant self-criticism, the way you replay old mistakes, the way you expect failure before you even try, the way you believe other people are better, smarter, more capable, more deserving than you. These thoughts might feel familiar, but they are not harmless. They are seeds that grow into beliefs. And beliefs shape your actions. When you believe you aren't good enough, you stop trying. When you believe you can't improve, you stop growing. When you believe you're unworthy of success or love or opportunity, you reject those things before the world even has a chance to give them to you. And the danger is that these thoughts feel so natural, so habitual, that you stop noticing them. You accept them as truth even though they were never truth at all. They were just repeated long enough to sound convincing. And every time you agree with a lie about yourself, your confidence loses another ounce of strength. Confidence also dies when you keep betraying the commitments you make to yourself. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and don't start, your mind stops trusting you. Every time you say, "I will change," but keep repeating the same behavior, your identity weakens. Confidence is built on self-trust, and self-trust is built on follow-through. Not perfection, just consistency, just honesty, just the willingness to hold yourself to the same standard you expect from others. But when you let yourself off the hook again and again, your mind learns that your words don't mean anything. And how can you feel confident when you don't trust the person you are becoming? And then there are the compromises. The ones you tell yourself are harmless. Staying in environments that drain you because you fear change. Allowing people to disrespect you because you fear confrontation. Putting your dreams on hold because you fear failure. These compromises might feel small in the moment, but they whisper a message into your identity. You're not strong enough. You're not capable. You don't deserve more. And the more you listen, the more those whispers become beliefs, and the more those beliefs shape your actions. Confidence doesn't die with a shout. It dies with a whisper. It dies in the moments you say, "Maybe later, maybe someone else, maybe I'm not enough." But the truth is, those are lies that grew louder only because you gave them space to grow. Change never begins in the moment you speak about it. It begins in the moment you confront what you've been avoiding. Most people talk about change for months, even years, without ever taking a real step. They convince themselves that thinking about the problem is the same as dealing with it. They convince themselves that time will fix things on its own. They convince themselves that if they ignore something long enough, it will magically disappear. But the truth is, nothing changes until you face what makes you uncomfortable. Growth doesn't start with comfort. It starts with honesty. Honesty about what's not working. Honesty about what you've allowed. And honesty about the things you've been running from. Avoidance is one of the quietest habits that weakens a person. You can avoid a difficult conversation, and for a moment it feels easier. You can avoid making a tough decision, and for a moment it feels safer. You can avoid examining your own patterns, and for a moment you feel less exposed. But every time you avoid something you know needs to be addressed, a small part of you loses strength. You teach your mind that fear gets to be in charge. You teach yourself that discomfort is something to run from instead of something to walk through. And this slowly shapes your identity into someone who survives life rather than someone who leads it. Confrontation isn't always about other people. In fact, the most important confrontation happens within yourself. It's sitting down with your thoughts and admitting that some of them have been lying to you. It's looking at your habits and acknowledging that some of them have been costing you more than they've been giving you. It's recognizing the ways you've sabotaged your own progress, not because you were incapable, but because part of you feared what success would demand. This kind of confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is the doorway to real transformation. Nothing powerful ever grows in denial. Denial keeps you blind. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you repeating the same patterns, hoping for a different outcome. And that's why so many people feel exhausted without doing anything that truly drains them. They're tired from the weight of unaddressed problems. They're tired from carrying emotional burdens they should have put down years ago. They're tired from pretending everything is fine when deep inside they know something needs to change. Avoidance doesn't protect you. It steals your strength quietly. It's easy to pretend the problem isn't that big. It's easy to say, not now, maybe later, or it's not the right time. But the truth is, the longer you wait to confront something, the more power it gains over you. Your fears grow, your doubts grow, the problem grows, and eventually you start shaping your entire life around something you refuse to face. You make excuses, you build routines that help you avoid triggers, you adjust your behavior so you don't have to feel discomfort. And before you realize it, your life becomes smaller, not because you're weak, but because you've allowed what you avoid to define your boundaries. But the moment you decide to confront something, even if your voice shakes, something shifts inside you. You reclaim power, you regain clarity, you remember what you're capable of. Confrontation isn't about fighting, it's about facing. It's about stopping the cycle of running and finally turning around to say, I won't let this control me anymore. And that single moment is often the beginning of a completely different life. Change doesn't come from wishing. It comes from willingness. Willingness to see the truth. Willingness to take responsibility. Willingness to step into discomfort. Willingness to let go of what no longer aligns with who you want to become. This is where strength is built. In the raw, honest, unfiltered moments where you finally look at the thing you feared and realize it wasn't as powerful as you imagined. The reason confronting your problems matters so much is because everything you avoid continues to drain you. It drains your confidence, it drains your energy, it drains your potential. But the moment you face it, even if the process is difficult, you stop the silent leak. You stop losing pieces of yourself to fear. You stop letting old wounds dictate new chapters of your life. You stop giving excuses the authority to speak for your future. It doesn't matter how long you've avoided something. What matters is the moment you decide you're done running. Because transformation doesn't require perfection, it requires honesty. And once you give yourself permission to stop hiding from the truth, change begins quietly but powerfully from the inside out. Breaking silent habits requires awareness, humility, and intentional action. And these three things don't come naturally to most of us. Awareness forces you to look at parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. Humility requires you to admit that you don't have everything figured out. And intentionality demands that you stop living on autopilot and start making choices that feel uncomfortable at first. But without these three, silent habits continue to grow in the dark, untouched and unchallenged, shaping your life without your permission. They thrive in the places where you refuse to look, and they die the moment you turn your attention toward them. Awareness is the first step, and often the hardest.